Hey, I'm Hannah Hill. I'm the director of the National Association for Gun Rights Legal Arm, and I'm here today with Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle, it's so good to have you here.
Hi, Hannah. Thank you for having me here.
Of course. So, we're just thrilled to be able to sit down and chat with you today because, as you know, our members have been standing behind you with their support and prayers from day one. And I know it's going to mean a lot to them to hear from you today. And, we're just really happy to have you here safe and sound after everything you've been through.
I'm glad to be here, and thank you to all the supporters who helped me out by learning the facts and watching your guys' stuff and what you guys have put out there in the fight. And thank you guys for the fight you guys did for me.
Of course, of course. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today because not only did you have to defend your life in a very public way, you also experienced the full attacks and vitriol of the leftist mob and the media for doing that. So I wanted to chat about how that whole experience has changed your view of the Second Amendment. So, but first, let's rewind it a little bit. If we could talk with 17-year-old Kyle before all of that went down and we asked you, what do you think about the right to keep and bear arms? What do you think about gun control? What would you say?
Well, I believe this is the United States of America, and we have the right to the Second Amendment as we do the First. And the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed, and that means shall not be infringed.
Very, very well said. And you sort of, would you say that you'd given it a lot of thought? Was that something you just kind of assumed everybody knew and understood?
I just thought that was a basic history, the U.S. Constitution.
You would think so. You would certainly think so. Um, so that night and the events of that evening, that kicked off a 2-year long ordeal for you, 2 years of relentless, vicious attacks. How would you say that your understanding of the right to keep and bear arms evolved during those 2 years?
Well, I realized that there's way more to the Second Amendment, that there's actually a huge attack on it.
Mm-hmm.
People are trying to ban all types of firearms. They're trying to ban the firearm that I was legally allowed to use to defend myself. They call it an assault rifle when it's a semi-automatic rifle.
Right.
They're coming after all of these weapons, trying to strip them from our hands, take away our rights, and use it to control us. And that's not okay because this is America. And we have the right to own what we want, and it shouldn't be governed by the government telling us we can and cannot own this.
Preach it. So I have to ask, at what point in that whole ordeal did you realize this is not just about what happened with you? They are actually attacking the Second Amendment.
When I started noticing them talk about all about the big scary AR-15 and pushing it and making it more about the gun. If I was convicted, they were going to use this to ban AR-15 rifles. They were going to use it to come after the guns if I would have lost a trial, if I would have been convicted.
And they've been doing that. They take so these assault weapons, so-called assault weapons, on the wall behind us. Obviously, they're not going to jump off the wall and attack us.
We don't know that. According to the left, they may jump off the wall.
Apparently so. Well, that they've been under attack for a long time. That's kind of it fed into the leftist narrative, and you're right. They were absolutely trying to use that to extend gun control, and that's actually why our organization just filed 10 lawsuits to overturn so-called assault weapons bans and to overturn standard capacity magazine bans, because without the magazine, the gun is useless, right? So
exactly. I mean, you look at an AR-15, the standard mag that comes with an AR-15 is 30 rounds.
That's right. So one thing I've been wondering the whole time is what they expected you to do. So they attacked you for defending yourself. Did they expect you just to take it, or what did they expect you to do?
That's exactly what they expected me to do. They expected me to drop dead right there and not defend myself.
That's unreal. Especially, I mean, the right and the drive to defend ourselves is ingrained in not just our Constitution, but ingrained in us as human beings. And I don't think I've ever seen that right.
It is a God-given right.
It is a God-given right, absolutely, and it has been attacked so viciously in your case.
Absolutely.
Did you expect it to become such a big case?
I did not. I didn't realize how big of a case it was until after I got out of jail, after I was able to make bail.
Right.
it was just amazing to see how much support I had from people all over the world, and especially from your guys' organization, your guys' members. And it just means so much to me that you guys stood up, you guys rolled with the punches, even taking all the ridicule for supporting me. You guys didn't back down. You guys didn't cowered in a corner like some other organizations. You guys stood up, and you guys stood up for what was right.
Well, it was a privilege to be a part of it, and I can tell you, we've got the best members in the world. Every single one of them stepped up to the plate to support you with your thoughts and prayers. We were getting those notes as well, and honestly, they're the ones that made it all possible. So we act on their behalf, and
Absolutely.
like I said, it was a privilege to be part of
Absolutely.
it. I wanted to talk a little bit about the days immediately following the verdict, but first I have to tell you, I wish you had been there with us when the verdict was announced. So most of our staff was out of town at the time. We were at a conservative conference with, 200 or 300 other conservatives. I don't know, I guess it might have been about 200 of us all, there at that conference. And a few of us had stepped aside out to the next room to watch when the verdict was being read. And as soon as it was announced, you were not guilty on all counts, we burst into the conference room. We interrupted the speaker to shout out that Kyle Rittenhouse has been acquitted, found not guilty on all charges. And the whole room erupted. Like, everybody was on their feet just cheering, and there may have been some tears, and it was just amazing. So I do wish you could have seen that. It was pretty awesome.
That's awesome. That would be amazing to see.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me.
Well, in the aftermath, once it's all over, now obviously, just because you absolutely did what had to be done, that didn't mean it wasn't painful. That didn't mean it wasn't necessary. How did you handle that? How did you handle processing all that?
Well, it's been very difficult. I go to therapy. I have a service dog. He's actually my best friend. You've probably seen photos of him.
Yes.
He's the cutest golden retriever ever.
Why didn't you go with a service cat?
I'm not a cat person.
Kidding. Nobody's going to look to a cat for therapy. Cat's why
Are you a cat
therapy.
person, Hannah?
I am very much a cat person. But we can still be friends.
Okay.
What about the media? How have you been handling that?
Well, right after my trial, I went to go tell my story because essentially it was other people telling it for me and like CNN lying about it. I want to say telling it for me because they weren't putting accurate facts out there. Right. You guys were. But I wanted to claim my name. I wanted to fix the lies that the media said about me. I wanted to fight back against them and say, this isn't true. This is what happened. And I wanted to tell my story. I wanted to tell the people what happened.
Right. And honestly, that's kind of partly why we supported you from day one. It's because, the evidence was there for anybody who had eyes to see it and was willing to actually look at it. We did our due diligence before we stepped in and got involved in the case. But if people are not willing to go to the original sources and watch them, and they just believe the lies that the media are telling them, then they come away with a very false narrative. And so it's a good thing that you're stepping forward to correct that, because it's very important. So now, 2 years later, you're about to vote for the first time, I believe.
I am about to vote.
Congratulations! That's a huge deal. How is everything that you've been through related to the Second Amendment? How's that going to impact your voting decisions?
Well, I'm going to vote for somebody who's going to fight for the Second Amendment. I'm going to vote for somebody who is going to fight for constitutional carry, 18 to 20-year-old carry, to where they can carry a pistol. I'm going to fight for the person who's not going to want to ban semi-automatic rifles or quote-unquote assault rifles. Yeah. I'm going to fight for the person who believes we are Americans and it is our Second Amendment to own and possess firearms. That's the guy I'm going to vote for.
You and me both.
Or girl.
Or girl, yes. I tell you, that's where it all starts, and that's why what we do here. That's why we're all here. It's because when people vote for the candidates that are going to take away your gun rights, when they vote for the candidates that are going to ban these guns, that's when we start losing our constitutional rights and freedoms, and that's where our organization has to step in and, hopefully sue to overturn those gun laws. But it's better to elect the people that don't pass them to begin with, right?
Absolutely. And just real quick, get out there and vote. Vote. It is our right, and it is so important. If you don't want to see our guns taken from us, vote.
That's right. And while we do have 10 lawsuits going right now to end so-called assault weapons bans and mag bans in 5 different federal circuits, it takes a while to do that. And sometimes the courts, they give us a hard time about it or they rule against us entirely. If you want to preserve your Second Amendment rights, you've got to get out there and vote pro-gun. So
absolutely, and vote all the way down to the judge.
That's right, or the district attorney. I mean, firsthand, the best gun laws on the books are not allowed to have an effect if they are not enforced properly by your local district attorney. So the enforcement of it is just as important as the legislative side of it. And those offices, the left understands the importance of those offices more than we do. So it's important to vote pro-gun for the district attorneys as well.
Absolutely.
All right. So in your case, obviously, you exercise your Second Amendment rights and the media has hounded you ever since. Are you still experiencing attacks and recriminations over what happened?
Absolutely. I'm currently facing a frivolous civil lawsuit that I have to deal with. It's complete nonsense, and it's another attack on the Second Amendment, saying, okay, we couldn't get you in your criminal case, now we're going to try to get you civilly.
Right. And who's bringing that lawsuit?
The Huber family is bringing that lawsuit against me.
So basically, because they couldn't convict you in a criminal court, where the standard of evidence is beyond a reasonable doubt, they've taken it to the civil courts, where the standard is much lower. Preponderance of the evidence, which is simply legal speak for more likely than not. Much easier to win, much easier to go after you when the standard of evidence is much lower. And as we know, the process is the punishment, and their goal is obviously to go after you any way they can. And so do you have a good legal team on this?
I have a phenomenal legal team. A lot of people think that I just won a $22 million lawsuit.
Yeah. Have there been any of those lawsuits? Have you filed any?
We have not filed any yet.
Okay, so all of that's fake news.
Yeah, we haven't filed any yet. I have not won $22 million from The View.
Okay.
And I'm currently actually paying attorneys to fight this right now, which is costing a lot of money.
How can people get involved in that who would be interested in helping out?
A good friend of mine actually set up a fundraiser on Give, Send, Go to help me pay these legal bills. And it's www.givesendgo/Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay.
We'll put the link to that in the description below for anybody who's interested in helping out. And I would encourage you to check that out. All right. So as we wrap this up, what message would you have today for gun rights supporters who are watching?
The biggest advice I can give to people my age, get out there and vote. Learn about firearms, learn about gun safety, learn about the Second Amendment, learn that they're not these big, giant, scary weapons. They're tools, and it's a tool that saved my life. So get out there, vote, learn about firearms, learn about gun safety, and just get educated in the Second Amendment.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me, Hannah. And thank you, National Association for Gun Rights, for having me here at your studio and range. Of course.
We have had a lot of fun. So once again, you can find the link to Kyle's Give, Send, Go down in the description below. And if you'd like to know more about our lawsuits to end gun bans and gun control, you can find that in the description as well, or you can go to gunrightsfoundation.org, where you can read more about it and learn how to get involved to help out with that as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.